Hi everyone, and welcome to my next video tutorial, which will be focused on uploading our Django projects to GitHub with Git Integration. So let's go on ahead and get started. Now, of course, the first thing that you need to have is a Django project which you want to upload to GitHub. So any project that you want to just have situated in a repository, you want to make sure that you have that project that you want to upload to GitHub. Right, so let's go ahead and get started with what we actually need to do. Now, the first thing that you need to do is you need to create a GitHub account, right? So you can head on over to github.com and then you can go on and say sign up. So I'm going to show you the entire process from scratch. So we can say sign up. Okay, and it's going to go through the setup wizard for you. So you're going to want to enter in your email here. So you can just enter in an email. And continue the process. Then you're going to want to choose a password for that email. So I'm going to go on ahead and do just that. Then you want to choose a username. So I'm just going to say here, say Cloud Engineer. Okay, and continue. You can choose if you want to receive occasional product updates and announcements. So this is an optional checkbox that you can check if you desire it, but I'm just going to leave it blank and say continue. So now I'm going to have to verify my account. It's just going to take a moment. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to go on ahead and solve a puzzle here. So let's go ahead and do just that. So let's verify our account and solve the puzzle here at hand. So what I'm going to do is just complete it and then we can continue with the process. Right, so welcome back. So as soon as you complete that puzzle, what's going to happen is a code will be sent to your email. And what you're going to want to do is head onto your email and enter in the code. And then, of course, you can go on ahead and proceed with the next set of steps. So that's the next thing you're going to want to do. So head onto your email, enter in the code, and then we can move on to the final steps of setting up our GitHub account. Right, as soon as you have verified the code linked to your email for your GitHub account, you then want to go on ahead and sign in with either your username or email address, along with the associated password that you went on ahead and added in for that account. Let's go ahead and do just that. Right, perfect. So once you've entered in your details, you can then go ahead and say sign in. And now what we can do is continue with the process. So we can see we are welcome to GitHub, and there is a sort of questionnaire which you can fill out here. However, what you can do is also scroll down and say skip personalization. And that's going to take you straight here to the GitHub dashboard. If you reach this stage, well done. You have successfully created your GitHub account. All right, so here we'll be able to create our repository, which is going to house our project source code. Now, there are many ways to go on ahead and upload your code to GitHub. Now, a typical way in which you can do so is to just drag and drop your source code. Now, this is very helpful if you are starting out on GitHub and you just want to just experience it for the first time in a simple way. Then, of course, you can go ahead and do just that. Now, I do have a video on that, so that would be my video on uploading a Django project to GitHub the easy way. So I will be sure to attach a link to that video in the description below if you want to check that out. However, this way is going to be a little bit more, how can I say, on a more appropriate level, because there is a limitation to how many files you can upload at once with GitHub if you're dragging and dropping. However, if you are working with larger projects, that's not really going to be, how can I say, as efficient. So it's better to rather go on ahead and use Git instead to help you with your workflow for your Django projects. Right, so let's go on ahead and continue with the process. So we can go on ahead and now create our GitHub repository, which will store all of our source code. So we can scroll down. And here under repository name, you want to just add in a name for your project. So I'm going to call mine here project X. I want to keep it a private repository here. So I'm going to say create a new repository that will be private. So it's a little bit more secure. And there we go, our repository was created. Now there are many steps in which to proceed further. So you can create a new repository on the command line with the following code, or push an existing repository from the command line with the following code. However, what we're going to do is we're going to do it a little bit differently. So just bear that in mind. Right, so here is our repository now, and we're all good to go. All right, so let's go on ahead and continue with the next step, and that is to set up Git on our machine. So what you can do is head on to the Git website. So it is available at git-scm.com. I will be sure to attach all of the links of everything that I explain in this video within the description below. Now, once you have access to the Git website, you want to scroll down and you want to download the version according to your device. So if you're on a Windows PC or if you're on a Mac OS, you want to say download, and it should automatically detect what you are using. So I'm going to say here download for Windows. Okay. And then what I want to do is I want to go on ahead and say click here to download. So I want to download the latest 64-bit version of Git for Windows. So let's go on ahead and do that. Now, when you click on it, what's going to happen is as soon as it's been downloaded and the setup wizard is open, it's just going to go on ahead and dim your screen after you've clicked on it. So that's just a security message that you just need to accept and say yes to. So we just need to give it a moment. So our screens will dim and you want to say yes for Git. So just go ahead and confirm that. And then the setup wizard will officially launch and get started. So what we can do is we can go through the process. So we're just going to say next for a lot of it, to be honest. So we just want the default settings for Git. We don't want to go into the heavy details of it. So we can say next. Okay, we can decide on the location of Git. So you can change this if you desire, but I would recommend keeping it on the default in your program files. Right, so it's going to install a few of the basic components. So we can say next. The start menu folder, which you can change if you desire. You can say next. The default editor, we're going to use Vim. You can say next. So adjusting the name of the initial branch in new repositories, we can decide that. Adjusting the path environment, so Git from the command line and also from third-party software. So we're going to use the recommended solution. We're going to use the bundled open SSH and the open SSL library for the HTTPS transport backend. In terms of the line ending conversions, we're going to use a checkout that is the Windows style, commit Unix style line endings. We'll use Minty, that's the default terminal. And we will choose a default behavior of Git pull to be fast forward or merge. And of course, we want to use Git credential manager because we are going to essentially be pushing our code to a private repository. And a way to do so is with the use of an access token, which I'll show you how to generate. Okay, we can enable file system caching. We can just leave the default here in terms of experimental options. We don't need that. So let's install now Git on our machine. So it's going to take a moment to install. So all we're going to want to do is be patient while the process gets completed, and then we can continue from there. So all we need to do now is we just need to be patient, and we will continue as soon as it has been installed, and then we can go on from there. All right, so welcome back. So as we can see, Git was successfully installed on our machine. So you're more than welcome to view the release notes if you so desire, but we definitely need to launch Git bash. So this is where we're going to go on ahead and add in all the programmatic commands for pushing our Django project to GitHub through our Git commands. So what we can do is launch Git bash to instantiate these commands, and I'm not going to look at the release notes, so I'm just going to uncheck that. Then we can say finish, and that's going to launch Git bash for us. And this is going to be the interface to which we will utilize for uploading our Django project to GitHub with. So I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller and just minimize it for the time being. Right, so that's how you can go on ahead and set up Git on your machine. Now the next thing that we want to do is create a personal access token so that we'll be able to push our source code to GitHub. And this is important because we are using a private repository, and if we didn't use a private repository, we wouldn't need to generate a personal access token. But just for extra security, we're going to just do that. Let's head on back to GitHub, and you want to click on your profile here on your icon, and then you can scroll down until you see settings here in the list. After you've clicked on that, on the left hand side, you want to scroll right to the bottom again, and you want to click on developer settings. Right? After which you want to navigate to personal access tokens and you want to create the classic token. So we can click here on tokens. After which you want to say generate new token, and you want to generate a new token, and that's of course the classic version for general use. After you've done so, you want to go on ahead and add in a note. So this can just be what the token is for. So here I'm just going to say private repo access as an example. You can then set the expiration period here to no expiration or to a set limit here. And under scope here, we just want to be able to have full access to our repository. So I'm just going to click on repo to give me all of the options down below here for the access that I am going to associate with this token. Once you're happy with that, you can go on ahead and scroll to the bottom and say generate token. So our token was created. So make sure now that you save it, you won't be able to access it again. So I'm just going to click here on this icon to copy it. And I'm just going to save it to a notepad file. And now what I'm going to do is head on back to my repository. So I'm going to click here on my icon, go to repositories, click on my repository that I created, which was Project X, which is a private repository. And I'm just going to stay here for the time being. Right, so let's continue with the process. And now what we want to do is actually push our Django project to GitHub with Git. So we're going to add in all of our Git commands in our Git bash terminal. So let's go ahead and get started. So of course, make sure that you have everything ready for the project that you want to push. So make sure you've got everything set up and ready to go. Now just to look at directory structure. So this is very important. So in my case, I have a folder on my desktop known as development. And in my development folder, I have my Django project called Elevate, and I have my virtual environment as well within that folder. Now the virtual environment folder, we're not going to push to GitHub as well. We're just going to push our Django project folder, in my case called Elevate. So directory structure is important. So let's home in on where the project is located. So what you want to do is open up your Git bash terminal. And you want to first of all say cd, which means change directory. And we first want to go to the desktop where our development folder is located at. So we can say cd desktop, enter. So now we are on the desktop. Then we want to go into the development folder. So we can say cd development. So we're going into another level. So on the desktop in the development folder, we then want to open up our Django project, which is known as Elevate. So then we can just say cd elevate. And now we are in our Django project directory here. So in the root directory right here situated. Right, so make sure that you are in the correct directory structure. That's very important. And notice that we're not including the virtual environment folder that we have here. We just want our Django project itself. So make sure you've got that in place. Now a very useful command here to clear your terminal if you see it's getting a little bit long is to type in clear, and that's going to clear everything up for you so that it's a lot cleaner. So make sure you've got your root directory and file structure in place. Now the first command that we want to add in is called git init. So we can say git init. All right, so the command git init initializes a new Git repository in our current directory, and this allows for version control for our project files. So let's say enter. So it's initialized our repository now. Next, you want to say git add space and dot. Now the command git add is going to stage all the changes in the current directory and all of the subdirectories and prepare them to be committed to the Git repository. So we can press enter. Great, next that we need to do is we want to say git commit -m, which means make, and then here in quotes we're going to say first commit. Right, so the command git commit -m first commit, so this creates a commit with the stage changes and includes the message first commit to describe the changes that are being made. So we can say enter as well. Perfect, let's just clear this up because it's getting a bit long. Next thing that we want to do is we want to go ahead and add in the next command, which is git branch -m for make, and I'm going to call it main. Okay, so the command git branch -m main renames the current git branch to main, so we just want to rename it. There we go. Then we want to go on ahead and say git remote add origin, And then we want to get our repository as the origin here. So we can head on to GitHub and you want to copy that URL here. So that states that this repository is from GitHub and the username of the repository. So it's going to be from GitHub. According to that username was the following repository. We want to copy that URL and head on back to our terminal. And you just want to go on ahead and paste that in. And then what you want to do then is, we make this a bit bigger, you want to make sure at the end, so this is very important, so I'll make it a bit bigger, at the end you say .git, okay? So this command sets up a remote connection named origin to the specified GitHub repository, in our case project X, allowing us to push and pull code from it. So then you want to say enter. All right, and the next thing we want to do is now we want to push our source code to our repository. So to do so, you want to say git push -u, and you want to say origin main -- force. Now, usually you can do this without putting force, but for some reason, in certain cases, you need to explicitly do so, else you're going to run into various errors. So this is forcefully going to push the local main branch to the remote repository named origin, overriding any conflicts or existing content, and sets the upstream tracking for future pushes. So we can go ahead and enter this command. Now, what we're going to want to do is just be a bit patient. So it's going to take a moment because we need to authorize this process with the Git credential manager, hence the reason we created that personal access token. So you're going to see here a pop-up will open up here to connect to GitHub. So we're going to use a token. And we have our token here, which we can copy. Oh, and we can just go on ahead and paste that in and say sign in. So that's just going to approve the process of pushing our source code to GitHub. And there we go. We've successfully pushed our project to GitHub. So let's just clear this terminal here. So we can just say clear. And now what you can do is just refresh GitHub here on your page. And there you go, your Django project has successfully been pushed to a repository, a private repository, in our case Project X, and that's how you can do it. There you go. So that is how you can go on ahead and push your you can push your Django project to GitHub using Git. As you can see, it is quite a seamless process and quite straightforward. So that's all you need to do to go on ahead and achieve the desired result. So of course, that's it for this video tutorial, guys, as always. So thank you for support and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.